So today we're diving into a really fascinating stack of sources,
We are.
and they're all centered around this, I guess you could call it a major culture clash.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's this changing and I think increasingly fraught relationship between Hollywood stardom and, political engagement.
Absolutely. The rules seem to be shifting right under their feet.
Right. It feels like the whole game is changing, forcing celebrities to make these like highly strategic decisions about when to speak out and maybe more importantly, when not to.
And that's really our core mission today, isn't it? To analyze these big decisions, specifically the choice by some really established celebrities to just retreat from political discussion.
To step back entirely.
Exactly. To figure out if the culture is actually, fundamentally shifting against all that political preaching.
And what does that mean for their influence?
Well, yeah, for their influence, which our sources suggest is actually pretty minimal, but also for their, their commercial viability in a world where every single audience is polarized.
We have some incredibly candid insights here. I mean, we've got everything from a huge star publicly declaring she's quitting politics to these strong arguments for bringing back professional mystique and even a look at what the next generation of celebrity activists are doing, or maybe what they're doing wrong.
A very confused next generation, I think.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
I think we have to start with one of the biggest pivots we've seen recently.
Let's do it.
Jennifer Lawrence, J-Law, and her public declaration that she is stepping back from political commentary completely.
And you have to remember, she was famously outspoken.
Oh, notoriously. Especially during the Trump years. She was very, very firmly aligned with one side of the aisle. But now she's giving two really clear reasons for what is, a total 180 on her public approach.
And those reasons are so important because they really reveal the new calculus for celebrity engagement.
So what are they?
Okay, so first, she stated that, in her opinion, celebrities do not make a difference whatsoever on who people vote for.
Right. They might preach to the choir, but they don't actually move the needle nationally.
Exactly. And second, and this is the piece I think is key, she felt that her political engagement was just adding fuel to the fire that is ripping the country apart.
The sources we looked at suggest she's definitively reading the room.
That's the phrase they use.
Yeah. And this pivot, it signals a major cultural correction. It's like an acknowledgement that there's a genuine exhaustion with hearing from what gets labeled as far-left celebrities preaching.
And the sources point to specific examples, right, of consumers, people, like you listening, who actively avoided her work because her past comments were just so entrenched in one political camp.
That shift in what people choose to watch, that's the real-world impact.
It is. That's what she's banking on. I mean, this isn't just about votes. It's about the international market.
Good point.
If a big star is seen as toxic or divisive to, say, half the U.S. audience, that damage just multiplies globally.
Especially in countries where they just see all the U.S. political stuff as, like, toxic baggage they don't want in their entertainment.
Exactly. So that commercial result is the biggest sign that this retreat is working. The sources point out that she's basically removed that political barrier for people who were turned off before.
Which brings us back to the question you raised. Is this genuine moment of fatigue, or is it, purely a strategic repositioning to maximize her box office appeal?
It really looks strategic. I mean, one source expressed this hope that other celebrities are watching what J-Law is doing and thinking.
That sounds like a good strategy.
That maybe I should follow that too. It really raises the question, is political silence now the single smartest commercial move you can make in a polarized media world?
It's wild to think about. I mean, a few decades ago, saying nothing was seen as weak.
And now saying too much is seen as financially dangerous.
It seems like that's the case.
Oh.
And that, I think, brings us to the core argument running through all this material. The idea that Hollywood needs to regain a sense of mystique by completely separating the celebrity from their politics.
Mystique used to be the default, right, back in the 20th century. But that boundary has been, almost completely obliterated by social media and this constant pressure to be an activist.
So if you believe the sources, the key to success today is figuring out how to, put that distance back.
Reintroduce that separation.
Exactly. And the source draws a great contrast when you look at someone like Tom Cruise.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
As someone who watches movies, I have absolutely no clue how Tom Cruise votes, genuinely don't know his politics, and I really respect him for that separation. I'll keep seeing his movies because he lets me enjoy the work without all that political baggage getting in the way.
And that ability to stay neutral, in the face of all this public scrutiny, that's his commercial superpower.
It really is.
The core argument here is that mystique is, quote, really important because it allows the audience to just suspend their disbelief
And get lost in the story.
Get lost in the story without being distracted by knowing where the star stands on every single contentious issue out there.
And the economics of it. They absolutely back that up.
How so?
Well, think about the budget for a global blockbuster. You need more than just the U.S. box office. You need, half the country and the whole world to buy tickets.
So if you alienate half of your biggest market,
or attach all this toxic political baggage to the project, you're just slashing your potential revenue before the film even gets made.
So connecting this to the bigger picture, the sources seem to suggest that the most successful public figures, the ones with real longevity, they stay relevant by being universally palatable, or at least politically agnostic.
And it's not just about being bankable. It's about protecting the product itself.
Right.
And there's this truly great analogy the source uses here. It says, Hollywood celebrities should conduct themselves like the late Queen.
Oh, that's a perfect comparison.
Isn't it?
Because the Queen was strategically above politics. Nobody knew how she voted. She stayed completely out of it because she knew it wasn't her role as a figurehead for, a diverse nation. Her survival depended on that neutrality.
Right. So if Hollywood actors took that stance, they'd be so much more secure commercially.
Okay, so let's tie this back to J-Law then. Is her retreat the ultimate way to guarantee that commercial viability, mirroring the same strategic neutrality you need to be a figurehead, or even just a brand that wants decades of success?
It certainly seems like the safest play in the book right now.
I would challenge that just a little bit, though.
Oh.
Can mystique really be maintained in this age of, constant digital surveillance and pressure to be authentic? Tom Cruise's silence works because he hasn't digitized his entire life for public consumption. That's a key difference from the younger generation.
Who are expected to use every platform available to them.
Exactly.
That is the perfect transition.
Yeah.
Because not everyone is retreating. In fact, we're seeing the complete opposite with the next generation.
The total contrast.
We have to compare J-Law's pivot towards silence with the active political push surrounding younger celebrities. And the best example was the recent Violet Affleck situation.
It's a very sharp juxtaposition. You have these established stars stepping away because they've learned the cost of engagement. And then you have reports that Jennifer Garner is actively trying to push her eldest daughter, Violet Affleck, into political stardom.
Basically leveraging her inherited status.
Right.
And the incident that really put a spotlight on this, according to the sources, was Violet's speech supporting the continuation of COVID restrictions.
Including mandatory masks, right?
Yes. And it went viral, but the source claims it was, quote, for all the wrong reasons. The response was mostly mocking and critical, not supportive.
But the parental intent, at least according to insiders, was supposedly positive. They said they raised her to be a concerned and informed citizen first and a celebrity offspring second.
And they saw her passionate, informed activism as, proof that their parenting worked.
But the public critique was instant and harsh.
Yeah, the source material really captures it. They label her an entitled Nebo baby who's being set up for disappointment and failure.
And the judgment was very specific. It wasn't just general dislike.
No, it wasn't. They said her demands were unrealistic and polarizing. And the source stressed that since she's over 18 and spoke at the UN, she is, quote, fair game for criticism.
What's really interesting there is that the audience isn't just criticizing her politics. They're fundamentally criticizing her platform.
Good point.
They see this inherited status being used for political currency, which just clashes so deeply with the modern expectation for, authentic grassroots activism.
The fact she was even speaking at the UN says it all.
Exactly. It says plenty about her status as a celebrity's daughter, not as, say, a policy expert.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. This just starkly illustrates the conflict in modern celebrity. You have established stars like Lawrence retreating to protect their image.
And their career longevity.
Right. While others, often leveraging their inherited status jump into the political arena, and they just meet this harsh, mocking criticism that's less about their message and more about their privilege.
It almost suggests that choosing to engage is a guaranteed route to public ridicule these days.
It really does. So now let's shift to how these high-profile celebrity politician conflicts play out when neutrality is just completely off the table.
Okay.
We have to look at the dynamic between George Clooney and Hunter Biden. This shows that even when the big names engage, the style of the fight is scrutinized just as much as the substance.
So this all comes from a very public political disagreement. Clooney wrote that infamous op-ed in the New York Times.
Which many people, including the Bidens, interpreted as him calling for Joe Biden to step down from the presidency.
Right. And Hunter Biden then publicly blasted Clooney for what he saw as, disloyalty, a totally inappropriate intervention.
And the discussion in our source material, it wasn't just about what they disagreed on. It was all about the analysis of Clooney's response to that public criticism.
There were two very different takes on it.
Exactly. One view called his measured reply classy and calculated. It quoted his comment, "I wish him well," and then noted he hoped Hunter gets better.
Which was seen as a very subtle but very powerful reference to Hunter's documented struggles with addiction.
But the other view was just as strong, calling that exact same reaction passive-aggressive and underhanded.
That perspective argued that Hunter's directness was actually better. They said Clooney was, quote, having a red-hot go whilst trying to seem kind and compassionate.
Hiding a personal attack inside a fake expression of sympathy.
Precisely.
That whole debate, passive aggression versus directness, it's fascinating because it proves that celebrity conflict is basically performance art.
The public isn't just assessing the message should Biden step down. They're assessing the messenger's delivery, their intent, their perceived authenticity.
Is Clooney acting like a concerned peer, or is he using coded language to land a political punch?
And one key insight from this is that when celebrities get tangled up in these political fights, the focus just shifts completely away from the actual policy.
And it becomes all about personal conduct, perceived moral superiority, and communication style.
It just highlights how impossible it is to navigate those waters gracefully when you're under that kind of spotlight, even for someone as experienced as George Clooney.
So to quickly recap everything we've just covered, we've seen established stars like J-Law ditching politics because she feels it's just ineffective and divisive.
And we saw the strong push for mystique with Tom Cruise and the Queen as the prime examples of a protective strategic measure.
And all of that contrasts so sharply with the new generation being actively pushed into politics, often just to face immediate public ridicule for it, like with Violet Affleck.
So what does this all mean for the future?
That's the big question.
Well, the overall message across these sources seems to be that celebrities are acutely aware of the diminishing positive returns of their political statements. They're realizing that neutrality is often a better, more secure strategy for career longevity in this landscape.
So the goal isn't to influence policy anymore.
For many top-tier stars, no. The goal is simply to survive the culture wars intact and maximize your commercial reach.
And that leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to mull over. If celebrity political activism truly holds little sway over how people vote, as Jennifer Lawrence concluded, is the primary purpose of their engagement just to signal allegiance to their own peer group, their industry colleagues and fellow coastal elites, rather than to genuinely influence the nation?
Something for you to consider the next time a movie star gets up on a political soapbox?